Hello and welcome to History 4320, Revolutionary America 1754 to 1783 for the fall 2024 semester. My name is Dr. James McDonald. I'm the instructor for the course. I apologize for my voice. It's going in and out. We're going to do the best we can through this introductory video. So a class that was originally meant to be face-to-face but now is going to be online. And that's going to work out just fine because what I'm going to be able to do in the course of the semester, given that the course has been taught through previous semesters, is place lectures into Moodle. And these lectures were recorded back when we were still in the middle of the pandemic. So when we had students attending and some not attending for various reasons, we were able to lecture capture the presentations every day. So what I've been doing slowly as we go along, and these were placed in first teams, they were recorded and then we uploaded them to stream. But now what I'm going to do is upload them into YouTube. So what you're going to be able to see when you click on any given lecture is actually a YouTube video. And that will be the lecture from previous semester. And that way I can go in there and I can clip them. I can take out some of the introductory remarks because most of the time I was speaking in front of a class. So what you're going to see is me and here talking over the notes with PowerPoints added as well. So as an example, and this is going to be beneficial to you, what you'll see in a given week, whether it's me or a podcast that we placed up there as well, is that you're going to see the class notes. And the class notes are those that you will see up in the video. So you can click on those and then you can click on and they'll be labeled every lecture. And this is going to take you to the YouTube lecture. Okay, so that's essentially what those lectures look like. If you see any and hear any pauses, there may be some questions asked by students. I may repeat the question. I know it gets a little off track, but for the most part, the content will all be there. So we're trying to make this as much as we can a face-to-face style presentation. So for example, in week one, you're responsible for the lecture on the historiography, which means the history of the history of the American Revolution. So how people wrote about this event has changed over the years, and I'm going to go through the different schools of thought on the American Revolution. And so that will become a little bit more clear and self-explanatory as you watch that lecture. Week two, we have a couple more lectures. So what the pattern will be is to see the class notes, and you can open these and have them going on your computer as you watch the lecture. Maybe that would be the best way to do it with me talking in the background. And then sometimes I supplement my own class lectures with some podcasts. The American Revolution podcast, still a work in progress. I think the individual responsible for it is up through the last, I think, year of the war. But this has been going on for a long time. They're outstanding. And you'll click on it and you will click on the podcast and it'll come up that way. So you'll see those scattered through as a way to kind of add to my own lectures. And so we're going to try to maintain the contact hours that we would have if this was a face-to-face class. Also, you might see some slides from the early lectures. Sometimes in the presentation, switching back and forth from notes to PowerPoint doesn't always work when I record the video. So you might see that up there and you can take a look at those on your own as well. So pretty straightforward as far as how we're going to do the presentation of the class. Now let's take a look at the syllabus to discuss the expectations, the assignments, and the books as well. As soon as I get that to come up. There we go. Okay, I'm in Kaiser Hall, but most of you are going to communicate through email. Just spell my name correctly. It's M-A-C, MacDonald. And I'm going to ask that you write the class or section number somewhere in the email. I'm going to know, small class, who you are and what class you're in, but in the subject line or somewhere in the email, just write American Revolution 4320 so I know who you are early on, and then later I'll be able to tell who you are because most of the upper level classes I can keep track of who's in that particular section. The office phone is there, but unless I'm there, I'm not really going to answer the phone. So the best way to get a hold of me is through email. We have three books technically, although we're only reading part of the third book. Callaway Scratch of a Pen, Shoemaker and the Tea Party. Those books are, I think, available through Include Ed. If not, you'll get an email about getting the physical book. Scratch of a Pen is the first one we need to read. It's a challenging book. It's a book about how the aftermath of the French and Indian War was singularly important for a lot of different groups, indigenous people, French, Spanish, British. It was a movement of a lot of people because of the significant events that happened as a result of the English victory in the French and Indian War. So those chapters will be assigned um, in the syllabus as far as recommended what to read because you don't want to read all of it at once, and you will have two papers based on the first two books. So there'll be short response papers along with the exams. So again, we're starting this, and very often a class on the American Revolution begins with the end of the French and Indian War, but that doesn't, I think, add enough drama to the story. So at NSU, I think this was a wise decision. They begin the class at the start of the French and Indian War. So if you are coming of age in the American Revolution, the French and Indian War was the most important event in your life up to that point. But of course, it brought about from Great Britain a series of reforms that were needed after their victory. And a lot of those reforms were fairly unpopular in the American colonies. And so we have the beginnings of resistance and then, revolution that happened as a result. And the cutoff date is not the Constitution, but basically the end of the war. And that way we're not as rushed. That way the next class, 4330, can pick up with the aftermath of the Treaty of Paris that ends the American Revolution. Great Britain recognized American independence, but there are a lot of early struggles for the United States in the 1780s, which lead to a group of folks calling for a stronger government, and that leads to the Constitutional Convention. So if we were to put that in this class, it would almost rush the process, and I think it would deny the importance of the two revolutionary movements that happened, the one for independence of Great Britain and the one to change the government of the United States. So there are two moments, you might call them, there. And we're going to be dealing with one in a lot of detail. Okay, the second book is a new one I've assigned. This is Alfred Young's The Shoemaker and the Tea Party, a book about an individual who was a participant in the Tea Party, his humble origin, his life story. And then the second part of the book, which is as significant, deals with memory and how the revolutionary generation was creating a narrative about the Tea Party. And people were, again, emphasizing and how people connected themselves to the revolutionary generation, service in the war, and even service and participation in a lot of the events that led up to it. In this case, the Boston Tea Party in 1773. The third text, which is going to be available online, that book I know that we have as an ebook at the library, and so you all will have access to it. We're going to read a couple of chapters of it, not the entire book. Will happen at the end of the semester. So for now, you make sure you acquire the first two books, especially considering that the Callaway book, Scratch of a Pen, and Young's book on the Shoemaker and the Tea Party, there'll be short response papers that you'll have to turn in. Okay, sorry. In the course of the semester on the Callaway book and the Young book, there'll be a 1-2 page for each book response. And it's not going to be a summary of the book because those summaries often turn into book reports. This is going to be a response specific question in the book. So that's something to keep in mind. I'll give you the assignment way ahead of time. Usually there will be choice involved, so you get to choose one of the questions that you're going to answer, and you'll write a 2-page response paper, turn that in through a Turnitin Dropbox to guarantee that this assignment is in your own words. I want you to be involved in this, and I want your response to it. But you're going to have to read the book. That's requirement one. Read the book, and you'll be able to answer the question without any problem. There will also be 3 exams. They're going to be administered online. Uh, Essay or short answer, have not determined that just yet. Um, in the past, I've found that I put up all this content and students do not use the lecture content to answer questions. So I had to revert to a short answer multiple choice exam. So I can't be more specific right now. We're just going to see how it goes. But no one's going to be blindsided by the exam. I'm going to have the requirements for the exam as far as what lectures and material will be covered by the exam, and that'll be up there in Moodle. So it's fairly straightforward. All the university policies in the syllabus we're going to scroll through as we get to the class schedule. Tentative schedule. I'm going to follow this as best as we can. We're going to start with the historiography of the American Revolution. We're going to lay out the conflict between Great Britain, Spain, Native American groups, and France in the Americas prior to 1750. And then we're going to talk about the wars of the 18th century, as they're often called. So there were conflicts before the French and Indian War. They're not usually remembered. They're not as significant, but it sets the tone for what's happening in this tremendous conflict, which a lot of the conflicts had started in Europe, and then the American part is a sideshow. The French and Indian War, this is front and center in North America. And George Washington is a big part of it because he, some have argued, starts it with his skirmish there in Western Pennsylvania. So we've got, not going to cover, obviously, and not going to go into detail about every single week here, but you can see the schedule. The exam will be open for several days, not just one day. And you can see the exam schedule there. I've also actually put up let's see. Okay. As you can see, I haven't changed the textbook for the second one. I thought I've actually put up the right syllabus, but I'm going to just say that we're going to upload the correct one. Where you see the Ryan book should be actually a book I used in the past. That's going to be the Young book. But anyway, let's focus on Callaway here. The Callaway book, scratch of a pen. I put the chapters there just so they apply to what we're going to be talking about in class. So just keep that in mind. And that's a way to not like read everything at the last minute. You're going to be reading, at a measured pace. And so you'll see, again, Ryan book, I obviously uploaded the wrong syllabus there. We're going to fix that on Moodle too. And then when we get towards the end of the semester, you'll see that the Nash text has a couple of chapters that you'll need to read. The final exam, the Nash book will be really heavily covered. And so that's something to keep in mind. Your idea is maybe, don't have to worry about that book because I don't have to write a paper on it, but you'll have the final exam heavily covered by that couple sections of Gary Nash's Forgotten Fifth. So keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to fix the proper syllabus linked on Moodle, but you get the general idea about how the class is going to be laid out. So in a given week, and we're only going to open 1 week at a time. It's not going to be kind of a free-for-all. For example, in week 3, you're going to see notes, lecture, lecture. And if there's anything else that I need to put up as far as supplementary assignments, there's going to be a couple of podcasts, and these are short, usually under an hour. They'll be up there as well in that week. And in week, what are we talking about? 3, you will see the Callaway assignment. So that'll give you ample time to see that and to make sure you focus on one of the questions as you do the reading in the course of looking at that book. So again, I'm hoping to make this as much kind of like a face-to-face class, but all online. So if you have any questions, concerns, or problems, please don't hesitate to contact me. Just send an email. And I hope you like the semester, and I hope you have a great fall.